Hello, beautiful souls. You're listening to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancis. Did you know that you can listen to this show everywhere podcasts are found? It's true. Now, I have 3 free gifts just for you. First gift, I give away a new reading each week to a person who's left a 5-star positive review of this show, then submitted it to me using the contact form at theangelmedium.com/contact. I hope I'm calling your number next. Second gift, if you'd like a new daily angel message, join me on Insta at Angel Podcast. Third free gift, if you'd like to know the name of one of your guardian angels so that you can work with them even more closely, go to the homepage of my website, theangelmedium.com, and submit your contact info at the very top. I'll email you back personally with the name of one of your angels. Okay, as we begin the show, I want you to feel the presence of your angels surrounding you. And just know that the loving, positive messages you resonate with today are messages for you from your angels and loved ones on the other side. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancis. And today we have journalist Warren Kozak with us. His new book, Waving Goodbye, Life After Loss, tells the story of his journey after his wife passed away. Warren, I hate to be here under these circumstances, but I know you're going to help so many people today with what you have to say. So thank you for taking time to be here.
Thank you, Julie. I hope this helps, and I thank you for all the work you've done helping people as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I have to tell you, sometimes spirit is with me in advance of these interviews. And I was sitting in my living room with my husband and our 2 little dogs. And I know that we're here for a long time in this life, but it goes by like snap of a finger, just so fast. And I heard this voice come in and say, when you lose your spouse, you lose your home. And I instantaneously knew that that doesn't mean the roof over your head, your property. It means this sense of belonging, connection, the safety, the security that you have with your partner. And I'll just say too, I don't think because my parents got divorced, I was very keen on marriage, but I've been married now for almost 18 years. And my partner is just the love of my life and my best friend. And he has shown me why marriage is so valuable, and he's helped me come home to myself. And I can't imagine, Warren, what you've been through and what so many listeners have been through in losing your partner. I just wonder if you can start by telling us some of your story.
Sure. I'll start by saying I never expected to be talking about this. I never expected that this would happen to me. This bad things happen to other people. And I also just looked at the tables and I thought, well, okay, men go first. So I made sure that my wife and daughter were would be well taken care of with insurance and things like that. And then suddenly, here I am, a widower, never expecting to be, and a single father, something else I wasn't expecting. Let me tell you, I'm trying to think where we should start on this journey. I made some really dumb mistakes early in my life. Things just didn't seem to work with different people, and I was always hopeful. And then what I write in the book is that one day I was asked the most mundane question you can possibly think of. A friend said, "You want to meet someone?" And I said, yeah, sure. And I was thinking, another wasted evening. And his wife made a beautiful dinner, and I got there first. And here's a lesson to everyone listening. I was even thinking of not going, of canceling at the last minute because the weather was lousy. It had been a long, tough day, and I knew that it was going to be a waste of time. So but I went anyway because I thought, out of obligation, and they went to the bother of making dinner. I went to their apartment. I got there first, and in walked Lisa. And I tried throughout the evening not to stare at her eyes. I didn't want her to think they were the most gorgeous blue eyes I've ever seen. So it's these two couples at dinner, we're having a really interesting conversation. And then all of a sudden we realize it's like 11:30, it's a school night, and we thank them. And we went out, and all of a sudden we're standing, waiting for the elevator in the vestibule. And we don't have the other couple to back us up anymore. And there's that awkward pause. And we kind of look at each other. And to break that awkward silence, I said, well, that went rather well. You want to get married? And I, and she just looked at me like I was crazy. And she didn't know what to say. Later, she said, I thought you seemed okay, but when you said that, I wasn't sure. When she got into the cab to go back to her apartment, she said, goodbye. And she said good night, and she meant goodbye. She didn't think she would see me again. But then when she told the story to her friends, they said, well, maybe you ought to give this guy another chance. It sounds like he's got a sense of humor too. But here's the thing. Here's the question, Julie. I never said that to anyone 4 hours after meeting them.
Wow.
Where did that come from? Yeah, I was trying to make a joke, but I don't think it was just a joke. I think there was something else that was going on. And within a year, we were married, and our daughter was on the way, and it was the most spectacular part of my life. She was the most spectacular part of my life. And we just had this great time. And we were also very committed to our daughter, raising her. It was, the three of us were a good combination. And when our daughter was 15 years old and a sophomore in high school, Lisa got sick. And it was a rare cancer. And it was a terrible downhill journey over 4 years. And then she passed away in 2018. And my daughter, and by the way, I can also tell you, I made a decision. The doctors she was in and out of hospitals, and I would be with her all the time in those hospitals. And near the end, the doctors and the palliative people came out and said, you have two choices now. And in the most benign possible terms, they said, we are now at the stage where we just can make her as comfortable as possible. And you know what that means. So I had two choices. I could take her to a hospice hospital, or I could bring her home. And I knew what I was going to do before, even though I saw the hospice hospital and they were lovely people. I brought her home because I thought, no, you use the term home. This was our home. This is where we raised our daughter. This is where we were a family. And I thought that was the right thing to do. And that is one decision I'm very pleased that I made. I thought she should be here at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. You write, to those around me, my friends, my colleagues, even my daughter, I appear normal, but in one fundamental way, I am not. The old me left with my wife. I am not sure who this new person is. I am still evolving, but I will tell you this with absolute certainty. I am not the same person I was before my wife died on January 1st, 2018. I think that so many people listening can relate, and so many people listening are empaths and know that one day we're going to experience this as well. And I've heard people describe it before, mothers who have lost children, that it's like a part of your heart is missing and or even dragging behind you, and you just keep walking forward, but it's never the same. And I wonder, we're sitting here together over 6 years later. Looking back, I'm sure hindsight is 2020. Do you still feel the same now, or do you feel in your journey that what was your healing process?
Good question, and it's an important question. I never expected to write this book. I certainly could not write the book in the first year or 2 years or third year. But 5 years out, I looked at my diary. Do you keep a diary by any chance?
My mom's always told me to, but I've got multiple all over because I can't stick with one. 2 ADHD, but I got to get better at that.
So I was covering the presidential election. Many elections passed, and I didn't know what city I was in. So just to keep track of the city, I started jotting it down, and then it became a habit. And I've been keeping a diary for most of my adult life. 5 years after Lisa passed away, for some reason, and maybe it was to connect with her again because it was the last time I saw her, I read the diary from the last, I'd say, 5 months of her life, and then what happened shortly after. And I was reminded of a lot of things that I probably buried on purpose. I didn't want to think about those days. They were pretty difficult. And I saw an email from a friend that I actually put into the book, and that triggered a conversation with him, a friend who also lost his wife over 50 years ago before, and has had a very successful life, and remarried, and has had a wonderful family. But he said it never went away, and there were times when he thought he was depressed, and a friend who was a psychiatrist said, "You're not depressed, you're sad." And why is he sad? That even though everything went his way, that the loss of his first wife had never left him. It was very powerful, and you can't cover these things up. Same thing with I think GIs who come back from war situations. If you pretend like nothing happened, and bury it, it's going to rise up. It's going to come up in different ways. So I started writing it. I've written a couple of other books. The other books took years. This one just kind of poured out of me very quickly. And the reason I wrote the book was because right after Lisa died, I looked for any kind of, people dropped off books, and most of them were written by psychologists, psychiatrists, and they were written in a very academic style. And my brain was it had just gone out to lunch right after she died. And that's actually something else that fascinated me, Julie, because up until the moment of her death, I was able to take care of her, the doctors, the hospitals, our daughter who was in high school and then starting college. I have a job, a day job, and I was doing that remotely. And I was able to do all those things really well. After she died, I lost my concentration. I could not read. And this is not uncommon. I mean, maybe these books help other people. They didn't help me. And what I did now is I wrote this book. You can see it's a little book. It's not huge. And it's written in short paragraphs, short chapters for people right after they lose someone, specifically a spouse. And the numbers, are just going to grow. I think you saw there are about 3.5 million widowers, 11.5 million widows. We make up 6% of the population, and that number is going to skyrocket as the baby boomers take their leave. And it is, we're such a divided people right now. And this is the one issue that, see, it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, Democrat, Republican, your race, your religion, none of that matters. It's going to impact everyone sooner or later, sadly. And that kind of breaks my heart.
Hmm. Yeah, me too. Ready for a little getaway that completely resets your energy? We're hosting a live in person spiritual retreat called A Whole New You. It's the weekend of October 4th in Oak Brook, Illinois. This spiritual retreat is all about your own personal healing and growth, reconnecting with yourself, learning to connect with your angels. And I'm going to talk about all new angels that I've never talked about anywhere before. And you're going to leave with more personal peace, purpose, clarity, and confidence than ever before. Learn more and see the itinerary at theangelmedium.com/retreat. That's theangelmedium.com/retreat. Links are in the show notes. And friend, I cannot wait to meet you and hug you in person. There's so many ways that I want to go with this, but one thing that kept sticking out to me is that as I've been running this show for the last 5 years, I see so many women who've lost their husbands, who come through and write books. And I think it's so important because I haven't seen this from the male perspective before, but you have so much heart. I just wonder if you're speaking to men as well, or just people who've lost their spouses in general. Are you speaking at all with this? Because I'm sure if you are, people would love to come see you.
I have no speaking engagements planned as yet, but a lot of podcasts, and I have been receiving a lot of emails from my website. You can, that's one way to contact me, and they're pretty even. They're from both men and women, and basically what most of them are saying is, we thought this was just us. And thank you for telling us that, we thought we were alone in these feelings. And obviously, we're not alone. It happens, everyone goes through this.
Yeah. We'll talk about some of that. And first, we'll put your website at the end of this too, but also for people who are like, I need to go find this Warren right now and send him an email. What is the website so that people can head over there too?
It's pretty simple. WarrenKozak.com. Kozak, Warren, Kozak.com.
Perfect. So when you talk about like, is everybody feeling this way? Or I thought I was just feeling this way. Sometimes I describe grief as feeling as if you're under 30 feet of water and you can't really hear clearly. You can't think clearly. I get that. I used to get that on stage too, before I would go speak. Just that complete mind blank. And you know that you're trying to get to information within your mind and recall, but you just can't pull it through. And sometimes that lasts 6 months, sometimes it lasts longer. How did you come through that time? That where you just feel like you're under so much water.
When it first happened, I assumed this was going to be me for the rest of my life, because the person that created the issue in the first place was not going to come back through the front door. So it would never be solved. It would never be fixed. And this would be me for the rest of my life. Here is the good news. It isn't me for the rest of my life. It does ease up, and it eased up a little bit after the first year, a little bit more after the second year. And I want to jump back to the friend I mentioned earlier who had the great successful marriage after he lost his wife. And he said something. He said, everyone handles grief in a different way, and it's like our fingerprints. No two are alike. Everyone has individual fingerprints, and everyone dealing with grief will deal with it on their own, in their own way. All I can say is this worked. This is what worked for me. I think I always say putting on my socks every morning, and just going out and going to work, and I'm also a father. So I needed to be the responsible adult, and I needed to be there for our daughter who lost her mother. And I will also say, although we always had a very close relationship, it has grown much closer. And we are, I'm very fortunate. She went through college and she works not far from me and lives, I live in New York City. She lives in Brooklyn, and we see each other at least twice a week. In fact, after the podcast, she's going to be coming over and
Yay.
I can't wait to see her. But, one day I write this in the book, you saw it. I was walking down Madison Avenue, and it was one of those gorgeous fall days. And in fact, the New Yorkers were smiling. You don't see that too often. And, people were just happy because it was such a beautiful day. And I had my AirPods in my ear, and I was listening to the most gorgeous piece of music. And then I kind of stopped and I thought, wow, I'm happy. I am happy to be alive. I'm just enjoying this incredible day. How lucky am I? And I never thought I would feel that way again.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't any great, I didn't win a lottery. I didn't, it was just walking down the street and enjoying this beautiful day.
Is it a place where you get to where you just feel that you come back to your own energy and those deep waves of grief have kind of released, and you know that you might not ever be whole again, but you're going to be okay?
That is the best definition I've ever heard. That's exactly how it was for me. And it's how it is. That's not to say I don't get pulled back sometimes. And I don't feel, sometimes I don't even understand why. I don't know if there's some anniversary or something happened at this particular time. Something will come up and just kind of drag me down again, but it's much shorter. I also talked about crying. I never cried much throughout my life, and I wondered if there was something wrong with me. And then I just made up for it right after she died, and I would just start crying in the most embarrassing places, on the subway. I started wearing dark glasses, like those creepy guys, that wear dark glasses on the subway. And or I was on the elliptical in the gym, or just walking down the street. And that started to lessen up a lot. There was another, we have a family home in Wisconsin on a lake, and I would be swimming. And one day I was swimming in that first summer, right after she passed away, and I started crying. And that is such a stupid thing to do with your head underwater, So, and then I started laughing, which is equally stupid, right?
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. Well, and have you ever heard of this? Because I thought that this was fascinating the first time that I heard of it, is mental mapping or spatial mapping, that when a person passes away, you always have this mental map. There's a scientist, and I can give you her name after this, but she studied it specifically with grief, and how when you have a person pass away, you've always got these mental maps within your mind. So if I'm here in the house right now, I know my husband is over at school over there. My daughter is at school over there. If I'm driving to the grocery store, I have this mental map that is subconscious within my mind that takes me to the grocery store and not the gym. And when you lose the person that you're close to, there's a part of that mental map that has to reorganize, because you can't find them energetically within this mental map
Mm.
anymore. And I found that with my dad, that even though he and I weren't talking when he passed, I always had that mental map of he's there. We're going to fix things before, time gets too far, and we'll come back together and things are going to be okay. But then when he wasn't here anymore, not only does it feel like you just got punched in the stomach and you're under that 30 feet of water, you can't find them. Like you just, they're not here. So you can't reach out to them. But I think it's kind of cool in your journalistic work. You might like it as well. She can say it better than I can, the scientist.
That's fascinating. I did not know this, but it makes sense. It makes sense to me for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
So why did you choose to write this book? Because writing a book can be a big endeavor.
I mentioned, I think, that the books that were given to me right after Lisa died were incomprehensible to me because my brain wasn't, I had lost my sense of concentration, and they were written in this very scientific academic style that I couldn't even stand when I was in college, let alone after this. And I wrote the book for people. I thought there should be a book out there in just plain English, frankly. So that was one reason. And here's another story. I had a wonderful friend who shared the same birthday, and she was exactly 30 years older than me. She was a nun, a former nun. She had left to, she had been an educator and was the head of a very big Catholic girls' school. And after Lisa died, a mutual friend had a small birthday party for us. It was about 2 months later. I was turning, what, about 67, 66, and Elizabeth was turning 97, 96, whatever. And someone it was just a small number of people, and someone said, Elizabeth, so what have you learned in your 96 years? And without missing a beat, she said, when you help others, you feel better about yourself. That has always stayed with me. So I was thinking, if I can help someone with this, and as I mentioned, I've received emails from people who said, God, we thought we were alone. This is really, it makes me feel better. And it makes me feel like maybe something positive came out of something negative, something terrible. So I guess that's why I wrote the book, plain and simple.
I love it. I love it. And I know we've talked about a lot already, but when it comes to the writing process, oftentimes you find things that you weren't even looking for, like the writing takes on a life of its own, and you have these big aha moments. What are like the three key takeaways that you would really want people to walk away from this podcast knowing about healing through the grief process?
The first one, without and once again, I have to say we are all different and it hits people at a different time. But the first thing I would say to someone who, especially someone who has just lost someone, and is that it will get better. And people said that to me, and I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it in those first months. It will get better, and I don't think you ever lose the person. I don't think the person disappears from your psyche, from your memory. That person will always be there. I think it's more that we figure out a way to live with it. It's and everything I'm saying, I'm listening to myself and I'm thinking, this is what people told me, and I didn't believe them. So what I would say is take it from a guy who has gone through it. I didn't think it would happen to me, and it has. So that would be the biggest takeaway. I think, as I said, being the responsible adult helped. I am very fortunate. I think gratitude took over, and was able to, overcome the other thoughts. So at the end of the book, I realized how lucky I was. I had a great, great marriage. Not all of my friends have had great marriages, I'm sorry to say. I had a child. We had a child together. I know people that are struggling to have children and can't, and it's a very difficult situation. Look how lucky I am. I had a fantastic wife. I have a child, and I need to say this, I have a job that gives me tremendous satisfaction and the world's greatest boss. I might point out, I have a boss who travels a lot. I would travel with him. And when Lisa got sick, he said, and this is long before COVID, he said, I want you to work remotely. I don't want you traveling with me. I'm going to be too nervous if something happens to her while you're with me.
Mm.
So I was able to be with her for the last 3 years of her life. I mean, how incredibly lucky am I for that, for all those things. So I was thinking, if I'm not grateful, then that's arrogance. And I have to put the gratitude over the loss. And most days it works. Not every day, not every day. Some days it still really stings, but the moments are quick. It's like I mentioned the crying. The crying is now much more, it's rare. And when it comes on, it's like a sneeze. You kind of feel it coming on, and the duration is about the same. It's all comes out, and then I just move on. And
Did
it's usually brought on, by the way, by kindness, someone's kindness,
oh,
or music, gorgeous piece of music.
beautiful. Um, is that gratitude that something that you experience naturally, or was it a thought process to get there? I know that you had said earlier, you expected yourself to pass first and your wife to pass second. And you talked about too how we're going to experience this more with baby boomers. Was there any survivors guilt, I guess, in a way, of why am I here and she's not?
Julie, that happened every night. I would stay in the hospital with her until late. I was with her most of the day, and I would leave late at night. And I remember one of the things that always stays with me is as I would walk out, the night nurses would look at me. And I remember that, you would just, and they would, there was one that I was always, she would always ask, am I eating? And you could see it in their faces, the concern. And I would give them a forced smile, and then I would get outside and I would breathe in this fresh air after being in a hospital with all the smells of a hospital. And I would be so grateful to be gulping in, and it was all 4 seasons. I remember it would be in winter, it would be in summer. And I was so grateful that I was able to do this. But at the same time, I felt terribly guilty because she was still there. And then I would wonder, why am I the one that's able to walk out? Why isn't she walking out? Why am I not the one in that hospital bed? So yeah, that was definitely guilt. And it's something we have no control over.
Yeah.
That was just what happened.
I think it's so important to point that out, because there often is this progression of thought process. And I know that, if the same had happened to my husband and I wouldn't want him to feel guilty at all. I would want him to be there for my daughter. I would want him to feel that gratitude. I would want him to find a way to go on and be happy and find somebody else, because want him to live a long, happy life here. So I think that that's such a beautiful message of bringing that around to that gratitude.
I will point out there are also some funny things in the book. It's life, and funny things happened. Funny things would happen, and Lisa would be, in the hospital bed looking at maybe at her iPad. I would be working on my computer next to her, but she would sometimes just say things out of the blue. And one day she said, it is said that if you had a really good marriage, it'll be easier to go into another relationship. And I understood exactly what she was saying. In the kindest and most gracious way, she was giving me permission, her own
Mm.
permission. And then I was the one that couldn't deal with it. And I said, I don't want to discuss it. And then I realized that it was not the right answer. And then what I did was I turned it around. I said, okay, if something happens to me, do I want you going into a convent? No, that wouldn't be right. Especially since we're Jewish. But I, I, I said, I guess it's okay. Yeah, you can move on, but there's no way you can have sex in a boathouse out at the lake. That's my turf. And if you try that, lady, I'm going to throw lightning bolts at both of you. And I got her to laugh, and that made me feel good. That made me feel good. The other thing she said was, I know you're going to save every dime for Claire. That's our daughter. She said, spend some money on yourself. Go out and buy some new clothes. I haven't been able to do that yet so easily. We had a very different attitude towards money, and I was very careful. And she loved buying things. She bought beautiful clothes. I feel terrible that I just loved seeing her all dressed up, but I never, I would complain sometimes about, you're spending so much money. Anyway, it's a good thing in a marriage too, I think, to have, to bring in different views.
Absolutely. It's been 6 years, Warren. You got to go get some new clothes. My husband's the same way. I'll joke with him and he'll go, I could get 15 more years out of this shirt. And I was like, no, you can't. It's got a hole in the sleeve. Sometimes
I can totally relate to your husband on that.
Oh my God. Sometimes I actually have to take scissors to things or like put it in the garbage where food is going to go on top of it so that he can't pull it out.
I love that. There was another story that I put in the book that I want to tell, and it was near the end of her life. I put her in a private. It was a private area of the hospital, and you have to pay extra for it, so the patient can have a single room. And they had an odd billing system where you had to pay every day. Why they did it this way, I don't know. So and the business office of the hospital is open 24 hours. I would stay until late. I knew the people, because I would be coming in every day, and they would ask, how's your wife doing? And I'd give them the card, and that was that. One day, my boss asked if I could come into work for a meeting. He needed me for something. And I said, sure, absolutely. And I went down to the business office on my way out. So this was earlier than normal. And there was someone else at the desk. And he passes over these 3 forms. And he said, you sign these 3. And I said, I've never had to sign any papers before. Is this something new? And he said, we always do it this way. We don't release the body until you sign all 3 papers. And I said, my wife has cancer. She's not doing so well, but I just left her about 2 minutes ago, and I'm pretty sure she was still breathing. And the guy just looked ashen, and he said, I am so sorry. It's just that the only people that ever come in here with suits and ties on are undertakers. And I just burst out laughing, and I said, thank you. You have just given me the first good laugh I've had in about a month. Thank you for that.
Oh.
So, things happen, and you have to, the little quirky things in life and the little ironies, and I still get a kick out of them.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It reminds me of there's a part in Sex and the City, the movie, where Carrie thinks she's never going to breathe again after she got stood up at the altar, and something funny happens in Mexico, and she's like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. When it comes to you and your wife now, have you gotten any signs from her? Oftentimes on the show, we talk about signs, and I know your journalist background. I'm really practical person myself, but I believe that they communicate with us from the other side, and they want us to know that they're okay.
So
Yes.
I am the world's most practical guy. I will say I don't believe in any of this, although I'm not sure. I don't know. And then one day, I'm sitting out at the lake. This is our family home. This is the most important physical place in the world to me. It's where I'm happiest. And I'm sitting down by the lake we have this kind of rocker chair, and this really weird. It wasn't a dragonfly. It was like a dragonfly, but it was an insect I've never seen before. And it sits right on my knee. And I'm looking at it and it's looking at me. And usually if you know that, you just, you jigger and the thing will fly away, this thing doesn't move. And the other thing about it was it had these huge eyes. And my wife had these incredible blue eyes. If you'll see a picture of her, in the book, or well, actually, it's not color, but on the website you can see it. And I'm looking at this insect, looking at me, and then I'm thinking, okay, so you probably want to see Claire. And I took out my phone and I got some pictures of our daughter and I hold it up to this insect and the eyes widen for each one. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's a reaction to the light or something, but wow, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't fly away. It did not fly away. And I went through like about 3, 4 pictures of Claire so she could see him, if that was her.
Amazing, amazing. I don't know where your lake house is in Wisconsin, but I know the just vibe of Midwest lake house. We used to have a lake house up in Powers Lake. Um, and it was actually in the family on my mom's side, but it was my dad's favorite place. And we were up there one day because now you can rent it on Airbnb.
Ah,
So we went up. I got to take my daughter up to see where I spent my childhood summers here and there. And I said, Dad, I know that you're here with me. I can feel you here with me. Send me a sign. And so we went to rent a boat and it said Harris on the side, which was my maiden name. And I go, oh, that's too easy. All these boats say Harris over here. So send me something bigger. Well, we brought up, right?
you are fussy. That wasn't good enough for you,
I
huh?
know, no, but he sent me like the best sign. So we brought up our 2 dogs, got 2 little Shih Tzus, and my little Lulu is just a runner. You open up the screen door and she'll just bolt. So she bolted outside and she didn't even have her collar on, which totally freaked me out. So I'm running after her, and these 2 ladies are just walking on the street. And they kind of catch her. And so I go over, I get her, and I look up, and big bold letters on this woman's t-shirt says Harris,
Oh,
Harris Theater. I go, I've never seen a Harris t-shirt before in my entire life. So I go, okay, thank you, Dad. But yeah, I believe that those signs just keep us connected, little winks from heaven, and that yeah, I
yeah.
keep hearing to tell you, stay open to them, Warren, and tell your daughter to stay open to them too.
Fair enough. And after that dragonfly, or it wasn't even a dragonfly, I should probably look it up and see if I can remember. After that incident, yeah, there was something going on there. And I'm glad I had the wherewithal to, and I had my phone next to me so I could show her the pictures. See, show her the pictures. So
Yes. Yes.
not show the dragonfly. By the way, the summer house, I grew up there. It was my grandparents bought it before the war, before World War II. My uncles went off, to the war. They came back. My dad was married to my mom already, and my grandparents were in one cottage. We were in another, and Lisa loved it. And when I inherited it, we fixed it up, and she loved it as much as I did. So I do feel her there a lot.
Yeah.
In the boathouse where I didn't want her to have sex with anyone else, right?
Giving away some secrets there, Warren. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, your book, Waving Goodbye, Life After Loss, is just such a must read for anybody who's lost somebody. And it's just a beautiful story if somebody's looking for a summer read that's going to touch the heart. Warren, where can people find you, send you emails, and keep in touch with you? We'll put all those links below to where they can buy the book.
The book is simple, Waving Goodbye on Amazon. And you can contact me at warrenkozak.com. There's a little, tells a little bit about my background. You'll see pictures of Lisa and Claire, and you will see a place for contacting me, and happy to hear from anyone.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Warren, for this beautiful work and for sharing your heart with the world.
Julie, thank you very much, and thank you for everything you're doing.
Friends, I need your help reaching as many people as possible. If you'd like to support this podcast and help us spread more hope to the world, please book a session with me, join my Angel membership, or take my Angel Reiki School. What's the difference? If you'd like to know what messages your angels and loved ones have for you, you'll want to book a session with me. The Angel membership is all about your own personal spiritual healing. The membership takes you on a spiritual journey that teaches you how to create your own heaven on earth. And the Angel Reiki School is for those who want to get certified in mediumship, angel messages, and energy healing all at once. These are 3 ways you can help us share a message of hope and love with more people than ever before. Register for one or all 3 at theangelmedium.com. That's theangelmedium.com. Now, let's pray together. As we do, I want you to pray in a way where you feel as though everything you want for yourself and the world has already come true, and you're giving thanks. Why? Because this is the best way to manifest. So let's begin. God, universe, source, thank you. We're so grateful that you've blessed this world with calm and peace for all. This calm and peace has spread like ripples, soothing the hearts of every soul. Thank you for opening our hearts to abundance, allowing each of us to live our most authentic life, and helping us to create our own heaven on earth. We thank you for the love and deep heart-to-heart connection that surrounds us every day in our relationships. We thank you for the abundance of health and aliveness we feel radiating from every cell in our and our families' bodies. Thank you for the gift of walking this life with us and guiding us every step of the way through your messages. We hear you through our own intuition, and we feel you walking right by our sides, and we overflow with gratitude. Thank you for financial abundance, an abundance of opportunities and miracles, blessings, and prosperity in every way. We know that you want us to succeed so that we can show others how you want them to succeed too. Thank you for the boundless love, kindness, empathy, and compassion that binds us all together. Thank you for the laughter, fun, moments of pure delight that fill us every day, especially today. God, universe, source, thank you for blessing us beyond measure and allowing us to use our souls, gifts, talents, skills, and abilities to serve the world. We love you. I love you. And in this we pray. Amen. Friends, we're working on some pretty major things over here. And if you wouldn't mind saying a little prayer that these things come to fruition if they're God's will, we'd so appreciate it. And please add a little prayer in for any specific thing you need right now, too. Have a beautiful, blessed day. And don't forget to submit your contact info at theangelmedium.com if you'd like me to channel the name of one of your angels for you. Sending you peace, bliss, and many blessings.